have found the Genesis frequency. This is Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina welcoming you in to another episode of a show that focuses on your whole life prosperity and success. Whole life prosperity and success by cooperating with the universal laws that are available to each and every one of us. This is Quantum Leap Goal Achievement, radical personal transformation, whole life prosperity and success. Now, stay tuned for another exciting episode that'll move the needle in your life from where you are now to where you want to be. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it may be, wherever you are in the world when you hit that play button. So glad you did. This is Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina, coming at you with another episode of the Genesis frequency here. Hey, we're going to kind of put a lid on the assumption and the feeling and the manifestation and all that. But it's always an underlying theme of every single show, right? Because really, this show is about moving you from where you are to where you want to be. And the way that we're going to wrap this particular series up is I'm going to actually read The Power of Assumption because I've had some questions come in and people ask about, and I'm getting more and more people from the business community and the corporate world and small business owners and entrepreneurs and saying, well, you keep talking about this power of assumption. What is this? It's from Neville Goddard in The Power of Awareness, and I really recommend that you get that and study it, not read it, study it. And that's what I recommend with any book that's out there for our own improvement, to study it, not just read it. When you read it, you don't retain anything, not for very long anyway, most of the time, unless you are incorporating, some repetition, some exercises, some action and application. So, I do corporate training, I do corporate speaking, I do public speaking, I do workshops, I do lunch and learns, I do one-on-one coaching, I do group coaching, I do facilitating and training and performance and productivity improvement, priority management, radical personal transformation, quantum leap goal achievement, all that stuff. But it all comes back down to a simple concept that you should find in any coaching or consulting program, any leadership development program, and that's the very basics, going down to the basics, the be, do, and have. Be, do, have. And most of the time I can identify where people are stumbling a little bit because they want to have and they want to skip everything else. They want to skip the action steps, they want to skip the mindset, they want to skip the attitude, they even skip the identification of what they want to experience in either in their company or in their personal lives. And I always like to wrap personal goals with professional goals and look at them at the same time, not a million personal goals and a million professional goals at once, because then we scatter ourselves, we spread ourselves thin. We only have so much bandwidth, right? And it's a whole nother whole nother program. In fact, if you go to my website, thegenesisfrequency.com, and type in search on bandwidth, you'll find a couple episodes on that talking about our bandwidth and consciousness. But when we're talking about the power of assumption, we're not talking about daydreaming and wishful thinking. In fact, I'll bring some business writings and quotes into this later on and show that today we're we're talking about the reality of how we're wired and how we work and human behavior and what really instigates and influences change in our lives, change in our behavior, because we have to go all the way back to first cause. And I talked a lot about that over the last couple episodes. I'm a cause and effect guy. That's why the play on words with my name, Cosmina, Dr. Cause, right? So we have to go back of all this. And if we don't apprehend that be in the be, do, and have model, If we're not being this in thoughts and words and actions, we're not going to have what it is we want to experience. So, we're going to talk a little bit more about wishing and daydreaming and things like that because I use all of the above words. And I, I am aware that language is so important, the words we use. And I talked about that too last episodes. I can use a collection of words and only one group or segment of people will hear me and use the thesaurus really and use some synonyms and a whole different group of people will hear me. And I'm really talking about the same thing. So when you hear me talk about wishes, dreams, desires, aspirations, longing and I'm not talking about the person that sits there and is just that wishful thinker, just the daydreamer, daydreaming the day away. Not that there's not, there's some good in all of that, but most people stop there, and that's not what this is all about. This is scientifically cooperating with the laws of cause and effect to quickly move or to make a quantum leap in the direction of what you want to experience in your personal life, in your business life, in your corporate culture, and in your corporate environment, your corporate objectives and corporate goals. So it works the same because we're wired the same as human beings. We all have different habits, we all have different patterns, we all have different internal programming, but we all are working with universal laws because they don't change and they're the same for everybody. Gravity isn't different for somebody across the street, you know, as it is for me. Laws are laws. They're immutable laws that are just they just are. And so we have to learn what they are and we have to cooperate them if we want to experience something. And this is important to know because every once in a while I'll bump into somebody or I'll make a presentation or a proposal and oftentimes I've had a lot of experience in my life. So usually I'm talking to people that are in an industry or in a profession that I have firsthand knowledge of because I was either immersed in it in one time in my life or worked in it in one time in my life or sold products and services in that industry at one time in my life so I can relate to it. But every once in a while there might be a situation where I'm having a conversation with someone and perhaps making a presentation and presenting a proposal that's outside my field of experience and they'll bring up the fact, well, we use training in the past, but it's generally somebody that's intimately or very familiar with our industry so they can speak the language, and that's valid to a certain extent. But hey, let's go deeper, cause and effect, right? So you're investing in that kind of training. Are you getting a return on your investment? And I agree, language is important, industry specific language is important. But when it comes right down to making a quantum leap in the direction of your goals and objectives in your corporation, when it comes to transformation, you want to transform what you're seeing, what you're experiencing, and influence the corporate culture and the behavior and the performance and the productivity. You have to understand how human behavior is put together and how we're wired and where we're operating from. And it doesn't matter what industry it is. So that's the constant. That's what this is all about. If you want to get specific, is understanding the laws that govern human behavior and moving in the direction of improving or replacing old worn out patterns and programming so that we can best put ourselves in the position to experience the achievement and accomplishment that we want to experience. So let's dive in here because this is going to wrap up the assumption and the manifestation and all those things that we talked about over the last few episodes. And I really want to read this chapter so it'll bring some clarity to what I've been talking about. Again, episodes have been imagination plus assumption plus feelings equal manifestation. And I did 3 episodes on that. And if you want to go back further, you can get the entire Power of Awareness. I read it and commented on each and every chapter years ago on here. So you'd have to scroll back or search on it on the website and you can find it. But right here, let's go through this. I don't normally like to read on this show because we don't have a whole lot of time together, but this is so important. And I really shared the opening line here a couple times over the past few episodes, and this is how it starts, and I'll share it again. It's a very, very short chapter. It's only about, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs. So here we go. Power of Assumption. This is from Neville Goddard in The Power of Awareness. Power of Assumption. Man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. All that befalls a man, all that is done by him, all that comes from him happens as a result of his state of consciousness. A man's consciousness is all that he thinks and desires and loves, all that he believes is true and consents to. That is why a change of consciousness is necessary before you can change your outer world. Rain falls as a result of a change in the temperature in the higher regions of the atmosphere. So, in like manner, a change of circumstance happens as a result of change in your state of consciousness. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. He's quoting scripture there. To be transformed, the whole basis of your thoughts must change. But your thoughts cannot change unless you have new ideas, for you think from your ideas. All transformation begins with an intense, burning desire to be transformed. The first step in the renewing of the mind is desire. You must want to be different and intend to be before you can begin to change yourself. There's be again, right? Then you must make your future dream a present fact. You do this by assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled, by desiring to be other than what you are. You can create an ideal of the person you want to be and assume that you are already that person. If this assumption is persisted in until it becomes your dominant feeling, the attainment of your ideal is inevitable. The ideal you hope to achieve is always ready for an incarnation. But unless you yourself offer it human parentage, it is incapable of birth. Therefore, your attitude should be one in which, having desired to express a higher state, you alone accept the task of incarnating this new and greater value of yourself. In giving birth to your ideal, you must bear in mind that the methods of mental and spiritual knowledge are entirely different. This is a point that is truly understood by probably not more than one person in a million. You know a thing mentally by looking at it from the outside, by comparing it with other things, by analyzing it and defining it, by thinking of it, whereas you can know a thing spiritually only by becoming it, only by thinking from it. You must be the thing itself and not merely talk about it or look at it. You must be like the moth in search of his idol, the flame, who spurred with true desire, plunging at once into the sacred fire, folded his wings within till he became one color and one substance with the flame. Just as the moth, in his desire to know the flame, was willing to destroy himself, so must you, in becoming a new person, be willing to die to your present self. You must be conscious of being healthy if you are to know what health is. You must be conscious of being secure if you are to know what security is. Therefore, to incarnate a new and greater value of yourself, you must assume that you already are what you want to be, and then live by faith in this assumption. which is not yet incarnate in the body of your life, in confidence that this new value or state of consciousness will become incarnated through your absolute fidelity to the assumption that you are that which you desire to be. That this is what wholeness means, what integrity means. They mean submission of the whole self to the feeling of the wish fulfilled in certainty that that new state of consciousness is the renewing of mind which transforms. There is no order in nature corresponding to this willing submission of the self to the ideal beyond the self. Therefore, it is the height of folly to expect the incarnation of a new and greater concept of self to come about by natural evolutionary process. That which requires a state of consciousness to produce its effect obviously cannot be effective without such a state of consciousness. And in your ability to assume the feeling of a greater life, to assume a new concept of yourself, you possess what the rest of nature does not possess: imagination, the instrument by which you create your world. Your imagination is the instrument, the means whereby your redemption from slavery, sickness, and poverty is effected. If you refuse to assume the responsibility of the incarnation of a new and higher concept of yourself, then you reject the means, the only means whereby your redemption, that is, the attainment of your ideal, can be effected. Imagination is the only redemptive power in the universe. However, your nature is such that it is optional to you, whether you remain in your present concept of yourself, a hungry being longing for freedom, health, and security, or choose to become the instrument of your own redemption, imagining yourself as that which you want to be, and thereby satisfying your hunger and redeeming yourself. Now, I don't know about you, but this is one of the most powerful short little chapters that I've ever read in my entire life, and it's all in here. Couple things. All transformation begins with an intense, burning desire to be transformed. You have to absolutely, positively want it more than anything else. It starts with a burning desire. You have to want it. This is where it separates from just, oh, wishful thinking or daydreaming, and in that energy that says, oh, that would be nice if that happened. That's not burning desire. That's not passion. That's not intensity. This is, I'm doing this. I am becoming this, and I am going to step into this all the way. Like it talks about with the moth and the flame. I'm going in, there's no going back. Talked about last episode. This is where a lot of people stumble. They don't have that burning desire, that passion, and that I'm going forward. And and, and without that, you run the risk of being one of those people that is always keeping score. Yeah, I really want this, but I don't see anything happening. I'm looking every day. I want to. I want to lose 100 pounds. I started my diet yesterday, got on the scale today, and it didn't move. What's the burning desire? You're not getting on the scale if you have that burning desire. You assuming the state of that person that has shed 100 pounds, right? So you're moving into this. So that's number one that really jumps out. Besides the first one, man's chief delusion, uh, is that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. So all transformation begins with an intense burning desire to be transformed. Okay. And then we talk about, hey, we got to move into this. And towards the end of the chapter, it says, it is the height of folly to expect the incarnation of a new and greater concept of self to come about by natural evolutionary process. That which requires a state of consciousness to produce its effect obviously cannot be effective without such a state of consciousness. And in your ability to assume the feeling of a greater life, to assume a new concept of yourself, you possess what the rest of nature does not: imagination, the instrument by which you create your world. So you realize that to do this, since it might not be your present moment level of experience right now, and you're moving into it, you're assuming all of this. You're assuming the end game, what you want to be, what you want to do, what you want to have. You have to use your imagination. You have to use it right now. So your burning desire moves you into the commitment, and the commitment keeps you centered in what you were assuming. So if it's that person that's 100 pounds lighter, if it's that corporate executive that, you've moved into the position, CFO, CIO, CEO, whatever that may be, you move into it now. And we're using our imagination to do so, to move and make this law of assumption work in our lives. And what this last piece that I just read is saying about uh, the folly to expect incarnation of a new and greater experience or concept of self. What it's saying is it's not going to come from the outside. We're not just going to grow into this and just let it be. We have to apply ourselves, and we have to take action. We identified the burning desire. We identified what it is we want personally and professionally. Now we're moving into the emotional state of it being our truth right here and right now. I just had an interview with the CEO of a financial institution, and I sat there and listened to his story for 2.5, 3 hours. And I was just fascinated by how he moved from where he was in his upbringing to be the CEO of this establishment, and it was just fascinating. But he moved into it mentally, emotionally. He did this, didn't know anything about the power of assumption. I dropped a lot of names and titles. He was unfamiliar with it. But see, we're working and cooperating with the law whether we're conscious of it or not. So if you want to make the quantum leap, if you want to do this more quickly, then study these laws, apprehend these concepts and put them to work. Apply them and take action in your life, and they will work for you. And this individual's just loving it. The office, oh my God, talk about a corner office. My goodness gracious. So we do that. We move what it into what it is, and we don't turn back. We don't keep score. We don't look and say, "Oh, I'm not there yet," and then we automatically, what are we doing? We're moving out of it. It's not going to come from without. It's not going to come from outside of you. You have to be at cause in your life. You have to move in right now. Hey, get on the phone, make an appointment with me. Let's talk about this. I'm out of time for today. Successappointment.com, successappointment.com. Whether it's for you as an individual in your small business or in your corporate environment, I can help you influence the move from where you are now to where you want to be. We'll get on a phone, identify what that is. We'll very quickly identify why you get stuck, why you only go so far, and then you seem to go back to the beginning, and then we'll set you out with a plan to move forward. Whether it's for you as an individual or corporate training that we're now doing now as franchisees of Leadership Management International, go check it out, lmi-usa.com or successocean.com, and have a conversation with me. Let's move you, let's move your company, let's move your business in the direction you want to go. But it starts here with human behavior, because that's how we get results. Impacting human behavior. That's how you that's how you change at the level of cause. We live in a cause and effect universe, and if you don't work with cause, you're not going to change the effect. It's not going to come about. That was the last point I made from this chapter. Imagination, use it. Assume what you want to be and move into it in every thought, word, and action. And then you'll see the changes. You'll see a reaction to your action. Good. This is the fun part. You will see a reaction to your action, to your application and action. You will see a reaction by people, places, events, circumstances, situations moving in to support that which you are being. That's that state that you are assuming. It's fascinating. It's profound. It is transformative. Radical personal and professional transformation starts with this right here. Listen to it again and again and again and again, and share it with those you care about. Hey, that's it for today. You've been listening to the Genesis Frequency Podcast, a podcast all about personal and professional and leadership development. And this is Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kosmina. I wish for you an infinitely spectacular day. God bless you.